Welcome back to Medieval Motors. Today I'm driving around in the newest project, a 2004 Chevy Blazer, two-door, two-wheel drive, and it's got some issues. So, the theme of this project is going to be beat on it, break it, upgrade it, repeat. So, we have plans to do an LS swap in the near future, but until then, there's a list of things that need to be done so that we can kind of future-proof that, kind of prepare for the swap before actually doing it, and things that just need to be fixed. When I bought it, he said it had a transmission leak. It turns out to be the transmission cooler line, the fitting at the radiator, and the oil cooler is also leaking at the radiator. Now, somebody's been in this, and I noticed a whole bunch of things that looked like it was going to be a salvage or a repair or some sort of title issue. But it was a clean title. And it's got several body panels that are not original because they still have the junkyard markings on them. The bumper's messed up. So I'm pretty sure this thing's had some issues in the front end, and maybe that's why either the radiator was replaced, the engine was replaced, and something had the front end of this truck apart and put back together. It's got the check engine light, which for a vehicle that's as old as this is, it's not uncommon. What it is the crankshaft position sensor keeps going out of sync, and we're not sure what the cause of that is quite yet, but the front of the engine is completely caked up in transmission fluid leakage and oil leakage, so we've got to do some cleaning first. And just in case, if you're curious what triggers that light, yeah, I got nothing. So we'll get that fixed and figured out. Hopefully it's not too complicated, but we'll get there. Here's the oil cooler side. As you can tell, the line has plenty of oil leakage around it. So much so, in fact, that it has gotten all around the radiator, the air box, and probably more once I start taking things apart. So we'll have to fix that. The transmission cooler lines seem to be experiencing the same sort of leakage. There is all sorts of nastiness down along the radiator fan shroud. Again, we'll find out more when we start taking it apart. So let's get to work. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the radiator fan shroud, and that should give me a little bit more working room to get at the fittings. Thanks to the rental program at O'Reilly's, I now have a fan clutch tool so we can get that fan off. Now, let's just figure out which size it is. Yep, looks like the 36 will do it. Now we just need to lock the water pump pulley so that it doesn't spin. as you can see from the level of grime on the radiator fan shroud, the air filter box, this thing must have been leaking forever. So let's see what we can do to get that cleaned up. And that's just nasty. Let's pop this hose off, get it out of the way. Set that over there. These things will have a little protective collar. It just pops right off. And then there's a little clip in here. And be careful, because as you're taking this clip out, it is going to go flying. Unless it's too stuck to do anything. And if you need to, save that for later. But then this line will pop right out of the fitting. And it leaves you with this little nub and sealing surface in there. And then there's an O-ring inside. So you have a couple of different options. The radiator will accept a 3/8, just regular fuel line tube thread like they used to use in the old transmission lines. You can go get the replacement, which is going to have a new O-ring in the center that should help control that, and it's going to have sealant on the threads, and that's going to seat just like the tube did. Or you can get a tube thread, not a pipe thread, hose fitting barb, and put it on there, which is what we're going to do for right now. And we're going to run a little bit of transmission line, and we're going to run 2 fuel injection hose clamps, because these things are under considerable pressure. So we want to make sure that everything stays good there. All right, so we're just going to use a short piece of transmission line hose to bridge this barbed fitting with this barbed tube. The barbs will help make sure that it gets a good seal on there, and then the clamps will make sure that they don't slide off. So let's put that on. Get our clamps. Tube to slide in. And now we have a very workable connection. Now it's just time to tighten up the clamps. And seeing how the bottom is probably just as leaky and or getting ready to be as leaky as the top one, I'm just going to go and swap it out now. The oil cooler lines are going to be the same generic process, but unfortunately they are in 1/2-inch tube, and I can't seem to quite find the way I took care of it on the transmission side for the oil side, so I'm going to have to try something a little different. Here on the left, you can see the old fitting. Notice the O-ring is no longer in ring shaped, it's all squished down, versus the new one, which everything looks like it's still going to be able to be sealed. They give you new clips, so we'll take care of that and get those installed. Now we just clean off all the surfaces, make it look good. Work on the sealing surfaces. And pop the line back in. That little spring clip that you need if you're going to reuse your old fitting, it's a pain in the butt, but you'll get it back in. Now, time to do the bottom one. All right, so oil fittings have been replaced, the engine has been brought up to temperature, and there are no leaks. Same with the transmission lines. I checked the top one, and the bottom one doesn't have any leaks on it, so we'll take that rag off to double check, but everything here looks good. In the process of cleaning everything, that airbox is disgusting. So I'm going to break out the parts washer and get that thing going. And while I had it out, I checked the air filter, and it is definitely in need of a change. So I think I found the problem with the crank sensor not syncing up properly. Yeah, somebody put in one of the self-clearancing crank sensors, and that just doesn't work. So went and got another one, threw it in, used the shims that apparently you need for almost any GM nowadays, but everything seems to be working fine, and the check engine light for that issue went away, and now I can, rev it all the way out. So good to know. Don't use self-clearancing crankshaft position sensors. Yeah, they don't work. All right, we got it all buttoned back up. We've gone about 1,000 miles so far. Had to go out of town, so I decided to road trip this. And all of the oil cooler and transmission cooler lines still bone dry. So we've got nothing going on there. And then you'll notice while the mechanical fan was out, it seemed silly to put it back in because, again, as far as future proofing goes, it's not going to be used ever again. I happen to have this little 12-inch fan lying around. Yes, it won't cool a performance engine. Yes, it probably won't do the job in the summer, but it's winter, and it'll do me until I get around to getting the right setup. I've also had to do a temporary fan controller. Once I get the tools to pin and unpin GM computers, I'm just going to have the ECM do all the fan control. And before anybody says anything, that was on there when I bought it. I'll fix that later. But everything's going good. And there it is, the two-door Blazer. If you like what you saw today, be sure to give us a like, leave a comment, tell us what you think we did. Subscribe, share, all the Facebook and YouTube things that need to be done. So we hope to have a long stretch of projects going on with this vehicle. I've already bought some of the parts. And until then, later.